Imagine your heart as an old house. There are windows that were never opened, rooms you avoid entering, and a silence that screams through the walls. On the outside, the facade may even look solid, but inside, there are stories that were never told, pains trapped in time, and a loneliness that learned to stay quiet. Perhaps you've lived this way for years without realizing it, keeping the doors closed to what you're afraid to feel. Because at some point in life, you learned that feeling too much was weakness or losing control. But what if today, just for a moment, you decided to turn on a light inside, not to change everything at once, but to see yourself, to realize that even in the darkest part of the house, life still beats. You don't need to fix everything right now. You only need to enter with presence, because when the light of awareness touches the soul's darkness, the frequency begins to change, and that's when everything starts to transform. There is a pain that few know how to name. It doesn't bleed, it doesn't clearly reveal itself, but it stays there, every day. It's the feeling of doing everything right, trying to keep positive thoughts, cultivating hope, practicing gratitude, and still sensing that something inside remains stuck, as if a part of you were frozen in an old time, as if a silent force were pushing you away from what you most desire. This block, this invisible barrier, is not laziness, not lack of faith, not incapacity. It is simply a vibrational field that needs to be recognized. Because, as Bruce Lipton teaches, you are not trapped by your genes. The idea that DNA defines your emotional and physical destiny is being dismantled by the discoveries of epigenetics. Your cells do not respond only to genetic code. They respond to the environment they are exposed to. And this environment is not only external, it is internal. Your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs. All of these build the field around each of your cells, telling the body what it should feel, create, or resist. And maybe that's exactly what no one ever told you, that you are, literally, a field in constant emission, that your mind, your heart, your whole body are transmitting signals, that there is a biology of spirituality happening within you right now, and that, in this very moment, the universe is listening. Joe Dispenza deepens this understanding by showing us that the heart and brain, when in coherence, create a powerful electromagnetic field. This field is your vibrational request. It is what tells the universe, this is who I am. This is what I am ready to live. But this language is not made of words. It is made of inner states, sincere emotions, sustained feelings. And that is why trying to manifest something with logical thought alone, without real emotional involvement, doesn't work. You may affirm 1,000 times, I want peace, I want love, I want prosperity. But if deep down what vibrates in you is fear, scarcity, or doubt, the field responds to that, and so does the universe. Because the universe does not respond to what you mentally wish for. It responds to what you vibrationally are. This awareness, though it may seem harsh, is liberating, because if you are the field, you are also the key. If the internal environment shapes your biology, then changing your frequency is rewriting your destiny. This does not mean forcing yourself to be fine all the time, nor denying your pain. On the contrary, it means recognizing it, embracing it, and consciously choosing not to remain vibrating in it as a pattern. The question that changes everything, then, is not, what do I want to attract? The question is, what am I emitting right now? Because you are already in frequency, already vibrating something, and the universe is responding, always. This is where true transformation begins, when you stop trying to convince the world and start conversing, honestly, with the energy you are sustaining within yourself. This is the foundation. This is the soil. It is here that all reality is built, and you can, with small steps, begin to fertilize it again. There is a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from the body. It's born in the soul. It's the weight of trying sincerely, of keeping the faith, of doing everything the way they say it should be done, and still seeing everything remain in the same place. It's like trying to swim toward the light while a silent current pulls you back, quietly, without explanation. This feeling of blockage, nameless yet painful, often isn't about what you do or don't do. It's about what you vibrate without knowing, because there are frequencies that come from so far back in our history that they become invisible to our eyes. They are emotions inherited, learned in the silence of childhood, in the unhealed traumas of those who raised us, or in the emotional repetitions that time turned into inner habits. Bruce Lipton speaks about this with clarity. Your subconscious is like a hidden transmitter. It stores emotional memories your conscious mind has already forgotten, but your body still carries. And those memories keep sending signals, even when you think you've moved on, even when you believe everything is resolved. Your body knows what your mind tries to ignore. The field you emit today is not made only of the thoughts you have now. It is largely shaped by the emotions you felt throughout your life that were never recognized, processed, or transformed. Every painful experience swallowed down, every fear denied, every limiting belief repeated without question. All of that became vibration, a vibration that shapes your presence, your posture, your choices, your energy. And that is why, sometimes, positive thinking is not enough, because there is a deeper layer, the frequency of emotional safety. When you feel at peace within, your field expands. When you vibrate fear, even subtly, your field contracts. The universe responds to this field, not to the words you speak while trying to cover it up. Emotional safety is not the absence of pain. It is knowing that even with pain, you can remain present in yourself. It is a state of inner acceptance that allows the field to stabilize, even in the midst of chaos. And this is what begins to dissolve the blockage. Not an effort to force joy, but a compassionate dive into what you have not yet wanted to feel. You may not realize it, but the field keeping you from moving forward might not even be yours. It may have started in another generation. It may have been learned in a moment when you were only trying to survive. But today, you can begin to see it with new eyes. Because the first step to transforming any frequency is recognizing that it exists. There is a widely spread and dangerously oversimplified belief that positive thinking alone is enough to change reality. That it's enough to repeat affirmations, keep a smile on your face, and cultivate optimism so the universe will grant your requests. But vibrational reality goes deeper than that, because the universe doesn't respond to what you say out loud. It responds to what your body silently vibrates. You may say, "I am abundant," but if inside you still carry the fear of lack, the field you emit is scarcity. You may affirm, "I am loved," but if your emotional system still expects rejection, the dominant vibration will be abandonment. And it is this vibration, this inner frequency, that the universe hears, interprets, and responds to. Because the universe doesn't operate on appearances, it moves through coherence. Bruce Lipton reminds us that the subconscious governs about 95% of our behavior, and the subconscious doesn't respond to logic. It isn't convinced by words, it is shaped by patterns. And most of these patterns were formed in the earliest years of your life, when your brain absorbed everything as absolute truth, without filters, without criticism, without choice. If back then you learned that love is dangerous, that being yourself leads to rejection, that feeling too much is wrong, those imprints continue running in the background like an invisible operating system, shaping your reactions, your decisions, your emotions. And until those foundations are seen and reprogrammed, any positive thought is only a veneer over cracked ground. Thoughts are affirmations, but emotions, they are vibrational commands. Emotion gives weight to intention. It carries the signal the universe decodes. And when there is dissonance between what you think and what you feel, the field you emit becomes confused. A confused field sends contradictory messages, and contradictory messages generate absent or distorted responses. The trap of forced optimism lies exactly there. It can create even more frustration, because the more you force an emotional state that doesn't match your inner truth, the more your field becomes disorganized. And the more your field disorganizes, the more you feel alone, as if the universe isn't responding, as if maybe you don't deserve what you desire. But it's not about deserving. It's about vibrational coherence. The turning point happens when you stop trying to seem fine and begin to truly listen to yourself. When you stop repeating pretty phrases and start feeling what lies behind them. Not to feed suffering, but to reclaim the emotional truth that is sustaining your current frequency. Because it is this truth, and not the attempt to hide it, that can be transformed. And perhaps this is one of the deepest healings, allowing your field to tell the truth. Because only when there is truth can there be alignment. And it is in alignment, not in the mask of positive thinking, that the universe finally begins to respond. There is a silent pain that follows those who are spiritually awake, yet still feel that nothing changes on the outside. Time seems not to move. Results don't arrive. The constant sense of being on the edge of something that never materializes. As if the universe were deaf to your deepest requests. But the truth is that the universe does not work in haste. It doesn't respond to the urgency of the mind, but to the stability of frequency. While you vibrate anxiety, fear of loss, the need for control, the field you emit is resistance. And where there is resistance, there is no flow. The universe responds with silence, not as punishment, but as a sign that the channel is still blocked. Greg Braden offers a powerful vision about this. Quantum time is not chronological. It doesn't follow the linear logic of clocks and calendars. Vibrational time is coherent. It organizes itself around the dominant frequency, which means it's not how much you want, nor how long you've been waiting, that determines manifestation. It is how much you are vibrating in coherence with what you desire. The human mind has learned to measure everything in deadlines, days, months, years. But the soul, it doesn't follow that count. The soul works in states. When you are present in the now with surrender, with trust, with a peace that doesn't demand immediate proof, your field stabilizes. And when the field stabilizes, reality begins to respond, not because you pressured it, but because you aligned. Attachment to the when disorganizes the field. When you think, why hasn't it happened yet? You send out a signal of lack. When you demand an urgent response from the universe, you are vibrating scarcity. And that scarcity creates more waiting, more silence, more misalignment. Waiting is not about the time missing. It is about the misalignment between what you want and what you vibrate. There is a simple yet deeply revealing image. Imagine you plant a seed in the soil. The next day, nothing has happened. You wait a few more days, still nothing. The urge to dig up the seed to check if it's growing is strong, but you know that if you do, you kill the process. The same is true with vibrational manifestation. The seed responds to trust, to silent care, to active patience, not to desperation disguised as faith. The universe does not delay, it aligns. And the most important question is not, when will it happen? But, what do I still need to stabilize within myself so this can bloom? Because everything real is born in the invisible. And the invisible only organizes itself when it finds an inner field willing to sustain it with truth and vibrational maturity. At certain moments in life, we feel as though we've lost our center. The mind races, the body tenses, the breath shortens. Everything feels urgent, everything feels like a threat. This is the survival state, and in this state, no matter how much you want to create a new reality, the field you emit is misaligned. The signal you transmit to the universe vibrates fear, control, tension. Recalibrating your frequency is not a mystical ritual detached from real life. It is a sensitive, practical, and deeply human process, and it begins with the body. Because before you can change your thoughts, you must change the state in which your body is holding those thoughts. And the first step is breath. When you breathe consciously, slowly, deeply, the nervous system understands that it is safe. The brain shifts out of beta mode, out of high alert, and enters a more receptive state. This is not just relaxation, it is biological reconfiguration. You stop vibrating fight and begin vibrating presence. The field begins to open. The second layer is sensory reprogramming. Your body does not distinguish between what is real and what is intensely felt. When you close your eyes and deeply feel the emotion of already having experienced what you desire, your field responds. Your cells respond. Your heart begins to emit a coherent signal, and that signal becomes a magnetic point. It's not about pretending you already have it. It's about feeling as someone who already is. Visualizing with emotional involvement gives the universe a new vibrational coordinate, but it's not enough to do this for a few minutes and then spend the rest of the day doubting. The body needs to sustain this new frequency with consistency, and this leads us to the third layer, the environment. The environment is everything that feeds your field without you noticing. The words you use when speaking about yourself, the people you share your energy with, the places you frequent, the rituals you cultivate. All of this communicates something to your subconscious, and the subconscious in turn emits that signal to the field. You become the field of what you live every day. The key is not to wait for something to arrive in order to then change your vibration. It is to transform your vibration first, so the universe can respond to who you have become. When you align internally with what you desire, the external world begins, little by little, to reflect this new state. Because the universe doesn't bring you what you want, it mirrors what you are. And being here is a vibration sustained with presence, with truth, and with intention. Imagine for a moment an old radio, the kind with a rotary dial. To hear a specific station, you need to adjust the dial carefully. A slight deviation, and the frequency disappears or mixes with static. Your vibration works the same way. You are the radio. You are the antenna. And the station you hear, or attract, depends on the frequency you are transmitting right now. It doesn't matter how much you want to hear soft music if you're tuned to a station of sad news. The universe won't change the programming to adapt to your desire. It only responds to what you are emitting. That's why so many people get frustrated. They want peace, but they vibrate anxiety. They want love, but they vibrate neediness. They want prosperity, but they vibrate scarcity. Neville Goddard said it precisely. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. And being, in this context, is not an abstract concept. It is the sum of what you feel most often, what you silently believe, what you mentally repeat, even when no one is watching. It is this sum that determines the station you are tuned to. This metaphor is so powerful because it shows that change doesn't come from shouting louder at the universe, but from the subtlety of turning the inner dial of your tuning. While you vibrate the fear of not succeeding, you are transmitting that station. While you hold on to the feeling of being rejected, you reinforce that channel. And that's why life sometimes seems to play the same song until you change the frequency. The tuning knob is in your hands. It doesn't turn by force. It responds to the touch of presence, conscious choice, the willingness to observe yourself truthfully. Changing frequency is, above all, listening to yourself. It's realizing that the current station no longer represents you, and accepting that with compassion, without judgment. Simply recognizing, this is no longer the music I want to dance to. And then, with lightness and firmness, you begin to turn the dial. One small adjustment at a time, a deeper breath, a more aligned choice, a more compassionate thought. And suddenly, the music changes, the field changes, the universe responds, not because you shouted, but because you finally tuned in to what you truly desire to live. There is something profoundly transformative in recognizing that you are not broken. You are in process. What hurts today is not failure. It is a signal, an invitation to look with more presence at what, until now, you've been trying to ignore. The universe is not silencing you. It is simply waiting for your frequency to become compatible with what you desire to receive. Bruce Lipton reminds us that when you change the vibrational environment around your cells, you change your biology. You change your health, your energy, your destiny. The science of epigenetics reveals something deeply spiritual. The external does not determine who you are. It is your inner field, your vibration, that defines what manifests outside. Transformation does not begin in the world. It begins in your field. Neville Goddard, with his sensitivity, goes further. It is not enough to visualize. It is not enough to want. You must feel as someone who already is. It is not about pretending. It is about embodying a new inner state with such truth that the universe can no longer ignore it. Because in that state, you stop asking and begin to be. And when you are, everything begins to converge. You may repeat 1,000 techniques, but if the vibrational foundation doesn't change, they become seeds planted in acidic soil. You must fertilize this soil with presence, with truth, with compassion. Not to speed up the process, but to make the field fertile, so that when the seed sprouts, it finds space to bloom. Healing, manifestation, true transformation are not magic. They are coherence. Coherence between thought, emotion, word, action, and silence. The universe responds to beings in coherence, not to minds in lack. And this coherence begins when you stop searching outside and start listening to what already vibrates within. So, the question that concludes this path is simple yet profound. What do you need to feel right now in order to become the field of the life you wish to live? Maybe it is not another technique. Maybe it is a reunion with your truth. Because in the silence between your heartbeats, there is a field waiting for you. And it is there that everything begins to recalibrate.